Weiner, and I think we've got about half of the attendees today are from our team and half from Howard's team. So, this message is for all of them. Obviously the talks many of us go to for eminent neurologists and other clinician scientists throughout Brigham or the Mass General Brigham system have a certain background and perspective, and sometimes that might preclude all the other amazing talents that person has, and you don't get a chance to see them. And I think that's one of the great joys of working in our system is the immeasurable talent and insights that, of course, express themselves in medicine, but also in other categories. So, I've had a chance to observe a little bit of that in terms of Dr. Weiner, and I would just say this accomplishment in these multiple categories is nothing new, and the Renaissance is certainly overused, but maybe appropriately here. One might note that he went to medical school at Dartmouth and University of Colorado, and if you're trying to figure out, well, why those two places, it might be proximity to ski jumping sites, and you'd be right that besides all his other achievements, he's a fabulous athlete and the father of two overachieving sons, including one who's written for 30 Rock and Silicon Valley, among other things. And so, again, today, I think, unless he tells us otherwise, it's going to have very little to do with medicine, but we're going to learn a lot about Howard in terms of his pursuits. Not many Harvard faculty members wind up having a review of their work in Variety, and identified at 72 years old as being a writer, producer, and director of a very heartfelt set of insights on aging and at least my view on loss. And if you haven't seen the last poker match, it's worth doing it. Martin Landau's final movie, and last poker game. I'm sorry. I just these words from Variety, I can't help but read. Written and directed by noted neurologist and award-winning documentarian, and maybe some of you have seen Howard's movie, What is Life, the movie. As his debut dramatic feature, this low-key and deeply felt indie is unsentimentally blunt while addressing humiliating debilitations that often define geriatric life. And speaking as someone who's on the cusp of that age group, having been born the year of Sputnik, I ever more seriously consider those issues. So having said all that, we turn it over to the talent as he marches in from the green room to share about his other endeavors. Howard.
Chris, thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen, and let's make sure it works, and let's put on my slides. I am going to be showing clips so everybody can see this, right? So I am going to be showing clips of movies, so I hope the sound is okay. So Chris, if the sound is not good or it needs to be louder or something, you just let me know, okay? So actually, I've never given this talk. I put this talk together, and Chris, I thank you for the opportunity because it gave me the chance to really go through and reflect and teach. Everybody asked about making the movie. So this is Abe and Phil's last poker game, and I call it a doctor's Hollywood journey. Everyone knows how you got there. So I'm going to ask you to go on the journey with me. You'll learn about film. You'll learn about how hard it is to get things done. And then at the end, I'll talk a little bit about medicine and film. So how did I start? What's the beginning? Well, the beginning is I was in medical school. I made music videos of Beatles songs. I was interested in film. This was in 1969. And I made one, Run for Your Life and Hide Your Love Away. And I'm going to put Run for Your Life on a little bit. I'll show it to you, but this is what I did. in medical school.
Well, I'd rather see you dead, little girl, than to be with another man. You better keep your head, little girl, I won't know where I am. You better run for your life if you can, little girl. Hide your head in the sand, little girl. Catch you with another man, that's the end, little girl.
So that's my sister and a medical student, colleague of mine. And this is a 4-minute thing. I'll run it a little bit. We're recording this so you can go back to the links and watch it. Here's Run for Your Life.
And I can't spend my whole life trying just to make it toe the line. You better run for your life if you can, little girl. Hide your head in the sand, little girl. Catch you with another man, that's the end.
Little humor there, keep to the left. I'll go to the end. There's a picture of me coming out of a manhole. You'll get to see me here. They're running through.
You better run for your life if you can, little girl. Hide your head in the sand, little girl. Catch you with another man, that's the end, little girl. Man, hey, little girl, I won't know where I am. You better run.
That was me. I don't know if you missed it, but
Keep your head, little girl, I won't know where I am.
so that's me. I'm 23 years old in medical school. So there's Run for Your Life. There's another one called Hide Your Love Away. And here's the link. And everyone says, well, did you want to do medicine or movies? I love movies. And I think this is where it all started. Then in 2011, I decided, I was a philosophy major in Dartmouth College, and I used to think about the big questions that I used to talk to everyone. So I made this movie called What is Life, the Movie. It cost about $50,000. Here's the poster for it. And here's an article that was in the Boston Globe. It says, when sometimes at a dinner party, Weiner will turn to his wife and tell her it's time to liven things up, and I pull out a list of 20 questions about what is life. So what happens when you die? Is there a soul? Is there a God? Etc. And I made this movie that I filmed over 4 or 5 years. I would hire filmmakers wherever I traveled and put it together. So here's the trailer. It's about 2 minutes, and I'm going to share with you the trailer of What is Life, the Movie.
I have to see something to believe it, or I have to feel it to believe it. So I won't know unless I'm dead. And if my soul is around and it's floating somewhere, then I believe it.
The question is not if there is life after death. There's a great question if there is life before death.
I believe there will be a spirit of me somewhere.
You feel peace when you think about God. You feel love when you think about God.
Religion give you this great certain answer. Of course, you don't know if it's true, but it makes you feel better.
I don't really know why bad things happen to good people. Maybe it's just wrong time and place.
I believe in the Big Bang.
What came before the Big Bang?
I don't know.
I don't know.
We'll never know.
I think certain things are meant to be. Whether or not we are free, I think we have to live as if we're free.
Well, if you find him, can you tell him to call me? I hope there's more than one.
How do you choose the right one? Whichever's available at the time.
So that we actually premiered this at the Joe Martin Center, and there's some big questions in there in the movie, and the movie went on to win awards in Los Angeles. It won 4 or 5 Los Angeles Films Awards for editing or whatever, and it also won a movie award for Award of Excellence. What is Life? The movie. Now, the biggest question in there is whether we have free will or not. We could spend hours talking about that. And the new movie that I'm making deals with that, a medical thriller that I'll tell you about. So at this time, after I made this movie, I was talking to my son who works on 30 Rock, and I said, you know, I'd like to make movies, et cetera. He says, well, why don't you make a movie of the novel you never published? So I wrote this novel called The Death of Abraham. It was written in 1983. I never got it published because no one wanted to publish something about old people. And here's the story of the death. An old Jewish doctor enters a nursing home because he can no longer care for his wife who has Alzheimer's. There he meets an old Italian gambler and womanizer. They strike an improbable friendship as they confront the end of their lives together. An adopted nurse in search of her roots takes a job at the home. After she receives an anonymous note that her father is there, she befriends the 2 old men. They both want to be her father. Of course, this ends up turning into Martin Landau, who plays the Jewish doctor, and Paul Sorvino. So I had to write the script, and there's for all you script writers, there's something called Final Draft 12, which is a classic program for writing a script. And so I had to take a 350-page novel and turn it into a 100-page movie script. I'd never done this before. By the way, 1 page of a script is 1 minute on the screen. So if it's 100 pages, it's about a minute, an hour and 40 minutes. And this is what a script looks like, different scenes. You start the script by saying where it is, internal shot, Molly's apartment. Abe Montalbán walks through his apartment, surveys the scene. Later on, you'll see this scene in the movie where he leaves his home. So I wrote the script, and I was trying to figure out what do I do. So one day, and I'm not divulging anything because Walter has talked about that, Walter Klenner came to see me as a neurologist because he'd had some neurological issues. And when it was over, I said, Walter, you know, well, first of all, here's who Walter is. Walter is a film director. He's written, produced many films, and it says here he's a faculty member at Emerson College. So he was in Boston, and I said, Walter, I've written this script. Would you like to read it? And he said, okay. He says, what do you want to do with it? And I said, well, I'd like to direct the movie. And he said, yeah, and I'd like to do brain surgery. And then he said, yeah, all right, I'll read it, but I'm not your mother. And if I don't like it, I usually don't read more than 12 pages. But he read it, and he actually really liked it. And we had a dinner at the Elephant Walk in Brookline. And he was a major supporter of the film, became an executive producer. We actually just had dinner with him at Legal Seafood last week because he lives in California. He's back in Boston. So he's a major help in terms of writing the script. Then my son says to me, well, Dad, if you want to film, you've never been on a movie set, you need to learn how to film, handle a camera, these things. So in 2013, he knew a guy named Joe Taranto and someone named Bowman Modine, who's the son of Matthew Modine. And I said, well, can I film a few scenes from the last poker game? So he said, yes. Here's a small budget. You'll later see bigger budgets, but a movie has above the line and below the line, all the different production, everything. This was $6,600. And we filmed it at the Montrose Healthcare Center. This is what it looked like. And I hired actors. It was $400 or $500 for them to work for a day. Here's somebody who played Abe Mandelbaum. This is someone who played Phil Nicoletti. This woman played Angela. And there is Joe Toronto. Sarah Garth was the DP. And here you can see filming. And we filmed in the courtyard. And this is a big scene, which turned out to be one of the best scenes in the movie. I can't show this to you now, we don't have time, but it's when there's a rapprochement between Abe and Phil. Then Walter Clement says, well, go visit a movie set. So he knew somebody in Vancouver, and Mira and I went to Vancouver and spent time watching a movie being filmed. But the big breakthrough then came, because then what do you do next? How do you move this forward? So a big breakthrough came when we had a table read in New York. I don't know what you know what a table read is, but that's when you sit around and read a film or read something. And this was set up by Bob Balaban. It was at the NYU Medical Center. Bob Balaban is a major figure in film. He was in Gosford Park, A Mighty Wind, Midnight Cowboy, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I met him actually when I met Richard Dreyfuss, because his wife had some illness. A theme that goes through all of this is through medicine. That's how I met Clenart. That's how I met Balaban. And he said, all right, I'll set up a table read in New York. Where are we going to have it? I said, well, do you have a conference room? He says, not really. So I said, okay, we'll do it at the NYU MS Center. So here we had a table read at the MS Center at NYU. I called the people there. I said, can I borrow your conference room? I want to do a table read. And here we are setting up the table read. They all sit with the book in front of them. And here are the actors. Here's Bob Balaban in the back. That's actually a Broadway actor that Mira and I saw on a play. I said, wait a minute, wasn't he in my table read? And so that was very good. And here I am with the crew. So we did the table read. So what's the next step in the journey? Well, the next step in the journey relates to somebody named Yaron Zilberman. And who is Yaron Zilberman? So Yaron Zilberman is an Israeli-American director, screenwriter, and producer. He lives in New York City with his wife and producer Tamar Sella and their children. And he wrote a documentary called Watermarks. He wrote a very good film called The Late Quartet with Philip Seymour Hoffman, a couple of recent films. So this is Yaron Zilberman. So how do I get to know Yaron Zilberman? Well, this is Michael Sella. He's a professor at the Weitzman Institute, and he co-developed multiple sclerosis. So whenever I go to the Weitzman, I meet with, in the past, with Michael Sella, and we talk. What are you doing, Howard? I said, well, I'm interested in making a film. And he says, you know, my daughter, Tamar, she married a New York filmmaker, Yaron Zilberman. Give him a call. So again, a medical connection to Yaron Zilberman and Tamar. And I couldn't get Yaron Zilberman to read the script. It was just tough, but it was easy for him to attend the table read. And he said, you know, Howard, the script really works, and I think it's ready to be filmed. I said, well, what do I do now? He says, well, you got to find a producer. And so he contacted someone named Peter Pastorelli, who was a line producer for Zilberman's film, A Late Quartet. Now, here are the pictures. Here is Yaron Zilberman. This is Peter Pastorelli. This is his wife, Tamar Sella. These are pictures from Tribeca. And here's a nice picture. This is Michael Sella. He was there. Michael Sella, his daughter Tamar, his wife Sarah at Tribeca. He's in his 90s and still active. So now we got to fund it. So we've got a producer, we got to fund it. And when you fund a film, you create something called a lookbook. It's kind of like a grant. And a lookbook has the story, summary, partnership, schedule, budget, cast, etc. And these are from the lookbook. We had to make a cover. I came up with the tagline, "It's never too late for life," which has stayed throughout for the film. I don't know if Taylor is on the line. Taylor Saracino helped me with this lookbook, so thank you, Taylor. So here's a from the lookbook. Pictures are very important of the story, the last poker game. You have to say, well, what other movies are good? So we put in movies on Golden Pond, Still Alice, and more, because in Hollywood, everything says, well, what other things is this like? Then the next thing is, well, who is your target cast? So these are people that we had thought could play Abe Mandelbaum. You see many actors. One of them was actually Richard Dreyfuss, who was a friend of mine. Actually, I've stayed at his house and know him quite well with Bob Balaban. And he read the script, but he was too expensive. We couldn't really get him for the script. For Phil Nicoletti, these are all, of course, these are mostly Jewish people. That's what you do. And these are mostly Italian people. And it did turn out that we got Paul Sorvino. So he was on our original list. So now we need $1.5 million. Okay, so Pastorelli comes up with the budget. This is above the line. So this is people for above the line, production costs, total production, other things, et cetera, $1.5 million. And then he said, you know, my sources of money fell through. I don't have any money. So I said, well, how are we going to make the film? He says, well, if you don't have money, you can't make the film. Maybe I'll get money in a couple of years from now. So I said to myself, well, maybe I can raise money. I'm very good at raising money for medical research. And I know people of means that I could approach. I'd had to approach people who had enough money that if they lost a few $100,000, it wouldn't make a difference to them. So there were two major funders that I had. One of them is Gene Applebaum. I take care of him for over 20 or 30 years. He has MS. Here he is as a young man. He's an amazing philanthropist. He was a pharmacist. He's given money to the Mayo Clinic, the Brigham, Detroit Institutes of Arts, just a wonderful man. And he agreed to put in a major amount of money for the film. And here he is at Tribeca. He's in his scooter there, and he's with Martin Landau. And him and his family really enjoyed the film. Now, the other person that I ended up talking to is Henry Termeer. Now, Chris knows Henry very well. Most people know it, a wonderful guy. I knew Henry because he was on the board of Autoimmune, which is a company that Brigham founded. And I was at a Partners Innovation event, and Henry was there, and we talked about oral tolerance. He says, what's going on, Howard? I says, well, I'm making a film. He says, oh, that's interesting. And then I said, could I be so bold to ask you if you want to make a major investment in the film? And so he read the script and he said, no, I'd love to do that. I've never done things in film. And so here he is at Tribeca with his wife. Sadly, as we all know, Henry Termeer, he actually passed away a month or so after the film, but he was able to come there and see the film. So this is entrepreneurship in the arts and in medicine. So now I have to cast the film, and we talked to many people, and it turned out, and you'll hear Lando's agent talking, it turned out that Lando was very interested in it. So I went out to Hollywood. Here's a picture of us. And we had dinner. We had a lunch on the Swingers Diner at Beverly Boulevard. And he tells me stories. I mean, my head was coming off. He tells me about working with Alfred Hitchcock, working with Francis Ford Coppola. He tells me about dating Marilyn Monroe. And we sat there for about 2 hours in the heat. Gave me ideas about the movie, said he loves the idea. And he came on to do the movie. And he liked the idea of Paul Sorvino, which you'll see. So then who do I get to play Phil Nicoletti is Paul Sorvino. And the interesting thing is that Paul Sorvino, the interaction between the actors is very important. And Paul Sorvino actually had a history with Lando because he gave the Oscar to Sorvino's daughter, Mira Sorvino, and a famous picture of Sorvino crying at the Oscars. And of course, this kind of bonded Lando and Sorvino. And let me see if I can bring this up and if it works.
Strange as it may seem, the very first Academy Awards did not include a category for Best Supporting Actress. It's our good fortune and that of these 5 wonderful first-time nominees that the good old days have gotten better. The nominees for Best Actress in a Supporting Role are Joan Allen in Nixon, Kathleen Quinlan in Apollo 13, Vera Sorvino in Mighty Aphrodite. Mary Whittingham in Georgia. And Kate Winslet in Sense and Sensibilities. And the Oscar is presented to Mira Sorvino in Mighty Aphrodite.
There's Quentin Tarantino giving her a kiss. Now I'm going to go to her acceptance speech where she mentions her father, and there's this classic picture of him crying that Martin and Paul will never forget.
Friends who you know who you are and I love you very much, and my parents and my family, and when you give me this award you honor my father, Paul Sorvino, who has taught me everything I know about acting. I love you very much, Dad.
So they spoke about that, and they had a wonderful relationship in the movie. We had other people to cast. We had to cast Angela, the nurse, and this went to Maria Dizia, who is a Broadway actress and really did a great job. She had to act with these two amazing actors, and she held her own. She really was amazing. I was very lucky with the actors. Then we had to get other people, and so we had a casting call. Where did I have the casting call? In the neurobiology department at the Harvard Medical School. So I won't show you all, but here's the casting call of Anne Marie Shea, who played Molly. And you can see some of the neurobiology written on the blackboard, but she has to play a woman with Alzheimer's, and she really did a great job. Let's look at Anne Marie.
Anne Marie Shea. You're with me, Molly. Everything is fine. We're in our new home.
So you can see in the background the neurobiology there.
Can we go for a morgue? What is morgue, Molly? Catch birds, sit on the grass. You mean take a walk outside?
So Anne Marie was outstanding, and I was very lucky. This was a very important role, and she did an outstanding job. The one thing she said is, I'm acting with this great actor, Martin Landau, playing his wife, and I don't have any lines because I have Alzheimer's and I don't have any lines, but she was great. Then we had to find a location to shoot the film, and we traveled around and we found a place called Avita, which was in Newburyport. This is a picture of it. It's an assisted living memory care facility. The whole bottom floor was empty, so we took over the whole thing. It became our studio. Here I am in front of it. We named it Cliffside Manor, and that's a sign we put up in front of it. And here we are. We have a production office, last poker game at Avita. Now, when you go to the movies at the end, there's this giant list of all the people that do things. Well, here they are. Writer, director, and producer. You can see my name there and the three producers. Here's the assistant directors. Now, I'll tell you, Anthony Ambroso is the first assistant director. There's a rule in the movies that if someone doesn't have a speaking role, the director can't talk to him. The assistant director has to talk to him. So I would have to tell Anthony to tell somebody else what to do. Here's the director of photography, Terrence Hayes, very, very important. Dressers, sound mixers, grip. I still don't know what a gaffer is. Production counsel, payroll clerk, caterers, casting directors, and the script supervisor. This is a guy that follows you along with the script, make sure you don't make any mistakes. So the primary filming took about 5 weeks, from October 30th to December 7th. Here we are in Avita. I'm directing a scene in the lunchroom. Here's Terrence Hayes, the director of photography, probably the most important person after for the director. Here we are shooting a scene, and I'll show you some of this with Paul. And here's an interesting thing. We were shooting a scene in this house and they wanted the light on the windows to be right. So they put up a light on the outside. Here we are shooting a scene in Boston. We set up a location. Here's the producers. Terrence always liked to wear a coat and tie. We drove through Boston in this car. The police helped us out. I thought this was cool. When we filmed them, there's a camera on the car that you remotely control to get pictures of them in the car. Here we are at Avita filming outside. Here I am with Terrence shooting a scene by the ocean. Here's all the people working on the scene, breaking for lunch. Here I am looking through the camera. So what about shooting the movie? And how many times do you shoot a scene to make the movie? And I'm going to show this to you. And you make one wide shot, medium shot, close up, medium, and then this allows the actors to try different approaches and make mistakes, the director to tell the actor how to play the scene, and the editor to actually create the scene. So I'm taking you to the movie set, and this is shooting a scene of Abe and Phil in the library. So the first thing we do is, and afterwards I'll show you what the scene looked like. Here's the wide angle.
Okay, close out. Center speed. 23, take one, Mark. And so, please. Set. Action.
By the way, nothing happens until I say action, and they have to keep going till I say cut. So Paul Sorvino's going to walk in. This is the wide angle.
Hey. Hi. Happy to see you. You too. I got a joke for you.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's a dirty joke.
So he's telling him a dirty joke. So they do the whole scene and we film everything. So now the next thing we do is a medium shot on Sorvino. So let me show you what, oops.
Mark. Set. Action.
Nice to see you. You too. I got a great joke for you. Dirty joke. Great. Takes place in a rest home.
So when they're doing it, the microphone and everything is on Paul. Martin is talking and reacting to him, but he can say anything he wants. So that's the medium on Paul. And now we shoot the whole scene again. Actually, we did it multiple times. This is the close, where it's close on Paul. You can see you're now,
From the top.
you can see we're now close on him. We really get his face.
Set.
Glad to see you. My dear friend Dave, I have a joke for you. A dirty joke. Great joke. Two old guys in a rest home.
All right, so they may do that several times. They may want to do it again. I may tell them to do it in a different way, etc. So now you turn the camera around, change all the lights. In fact, they can go to the dressing room while they do that. So now we're doing a medium shot on Lando, and you could see him kind of preparing himself emotionally for this.
Roll sound.
Full from standing?
Yeah.
I'm gonna walk in.
Yes, please.
He wants to shoot me a little bit.
Give him a moment.
Here, waiting.
Yeah, I got it.
So Lando's kind of collecting himself here. He knows what's coming. He's a little distressed.
Hey.
Good to see you.
How are you today?
Okay, I'm good. How are you?
Good. I have a joke for you.
Oh,
A great joke. two old guys in a rest home. They read about two college kids who.
See, Sorvino doesn't have to worry about his lines. He just needs to give the lines to Lando. So there, now we do the close on Lando.
Sorry.
20, 23, I took like one, Mark.
It's great to see you.
See, you're close on his face now.
Hi.
Action.
Great to see you.
You too. Have I got a joke for you? It's a dirty joke.
A dirty joke.
Two old guys in the rest.
See, Sorvino's kind of having fun. He talks with an accent. He knows he's not on the camera. So you you do this for every scene. And let me show you how the editor put this scene together, okay? So here you can see what the scene looks like. He's sitting there nervous. This is your wide scene. Wide scene. Sorvino comes in.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you today?
Glad to see you.
You too. Abe, I got a joke for you.
See, and he started with on Lando, then he cuts back to. I gotta get my thing here. Cuts back to Sorvino.
A dirty joke.
Aha.
Two old guys in a rest home, right? They read about these college kids who run naked through the classrooms, and they decide, a good idea, let's do it here. So they go balls ass naked, running through the rest home. They pass two old women, and one of them says, "Did you see what just passed?" And the other one says, "Yes." "And did you see what they were wearing?" He said, "Yes, and it needed ironing."
See, now he goes to a close, use a close on Sorvino.
Are you suggesting that you and I run through this place naked?
Yes, right now, let's do it. It would take us a half hour to get our clothes off.
He's still close using.
I know it's okay for.
So using the medium shot.
Away with it, but for you and me, it's not just no bingo. I mean, they would probably tie us to our beds. Oh, I remember a joke, a dirty joke.
You?
Yeah.
The dirty joke?
Yeah.
Shame all over you. Go for it.
Okay. This guy is an old guy, and there's a knock on his door, and he opens the door, and there's a woman there wearing a short mini skirt and a low blouse. And
see, now they went to the close on Lando. So anyway, that's how you make a movie. And many actors will tell you that the most important thing is who they act with. So then you have to edit it. So our first editor was a woman named Victoria. To be honest, we didn't like exactly how she edited, so we re-edited it with a guy named Andy Keir. And he actually changed some things around and helped the ending and really helped make the film. The other thing that you do when you make a film, after the editor edits it, they may put in new lines that were never spoken. So you do something that's called ADR. So here in Los Angeles, here's Sorvino and here's Lando, and there's ADR lines that they read looking at the screen to put in new lines in the film. Next thing you do is you put in music, and this was done by Stephen Argyle in Los Angeles. Here's Stephen, we're in Los Angeles. These are live musicians that he wanted. They came to the studio, they play the music while they're watching the film. Here's a picture of this particular scene and the musicians playing. And his music really made a difference. The music can make a big difference in the film. But then when they showed the music, Argyle calls me, he says, something's wrong with the sound, the movie's no good. I said, oh my God. And then we showed it to the producers, we showed it to an expert in sound, and he says, I think the sound needs to be fixed. So we went back to Los Angeles to Warner Brothers, costed $25,000. And here we are at Warner Brothers. If you want to know where you're in Hollywood, there you are, you're in Hollywood. And we sat with these guys for 5 days, 8 hours a day, going over every word and adjusting the sound. The next thing we did was a test screening where we showed the film. Actually, we showed it at the Coolidge Corner. And we asked people to say, did you like the film? Did you didn't like the film? One of the things we're very interested in the way the movie ended. Should we say who the father was, etc. And the big breakthrough came when we got into the Tribeca Film Festival. We didn't get into Sundance, but we got into Tribeca. And that was just a major, major thing in the film. This is the poster that they came up with for Tribeca. Here's Martin Landau at Tribeca with me. There's Paul Sorvino and his wife. And Robert De Niro does Tribeca, and I met him, and we invited him to our screening. He couldn't come, so he sent me some champagne. Sorry we weren't at your premiere. Jane Rosenthal runs Tribeca, and Bob De Niro. And here's a picture of me with him at Tribeca. This is my family, my sons, daughter-in-law, sister, and brother-in-law. These are all the people that were at Evita. She's in the film, this woman right here. Here are the producers. And then there were interviews at Tribeca. Let me show you one of them that has a nice scene, and then Lando talks about the movie.
How on earth does this short, older guy consistently hit the ball 300 plus yards? Well,
because I do it on the internet, you get those things. Here we go.
You're not going to believe what happened to me.
You got laid. I'm sorry, I got a one-track mind.
Well, you're in the right ballpark.
What ballpark?
Well, I mean, women getting laid.
You got laid?
No. Howard, who directed it, Howard Weiner. He teaches at Harvard. He's a doctor. I played a doctor. He also has a laboratory where he's working on cures for Parkinson's, cancer, Alzheimer's, and so on. So he's a first-time director at the age of 70. So he doesn't know it's hard. And I sort of like that. He wrote this. The reason I did it and the reason Paul did it was because it's not a Hollywood version of a retirement home. It's a doctor's look at it. And it seemed very real, and it moved me on the page, which is rare.
Paul Sorvino, how old is he?
He's about 10 years younger than I am. Paul thinks this is one of the best things he's ever done. I mean, he's lovely in it. I watch it and I just love what he does. We wanted this to be Howard's picture. He understood this picture. So he learned very quickly that in order to do that, every morning we would get together, the actors would get together and take as much subtlety out of the scene as possible. It's a lovely, sweet film. I went to Pratt Institute.
So that's a nice, a very nice interview. There's another one. We can't watch all this one, but I'll show you this because it has Maria Dizia in it.
So I've always had an interest in film. When I was in medical school, I used to make music videos.
There's myself, Martin Landau, Maria Dizia.
And in science, we're looking for certain biologic truths. And there's some things about life you can't explore in the laboratory. So I wanted to explore them on film. So it's called The Last Poker Game. An old Jewish doctor goes into a home with his wife who has Alzheimer's because he can't take care of her. That's Martin Landau.
So I'm going to stop that. We're recording this. Anyone who wants to go to these links can go to it. So there we are at Tribeca. And then sadly, Martin Landau passes away. Tribeca was in April and he passed away. I remember when I got the call, I went to his funeral. There was a big memorial for him in Hollywood. I went there and we made a Last Poker Game clip for him. And let me show this. I don't know if I can show all of it. It goes about 6 minutes, but this is him in the film and the beauty of him in the film that I showed at his memorial. And here you get to see the opening and he's a doctor leaving home. There's Anne Richet as Molly. Stephen Argler's music is just great.
So all of your clothes are labeled?
Yes, our names are on everything.
Good. Let's start with valuables.
We both have gold rings.
Do you ever take those off?
No.
Good. Anything else?
Yes, my wife has a fur coat.
That's not allowed, Mr. Mandelbaum.
It's Dr. Mandelbaum. I'm not a Mr. And I could not bring her without the fur coat. It makes her happy.
I understand, Mr. Mandelbaum. Dr. Mandelbaum. But we can't be responsible for a fur coat.
I don't care, okay?
Okay, I'll make a note.
So this goes on for 6 or so minutes. You can watch it if you want to. I just want to be cognizant of time. But the interesting thing is there's a death scene, and we showed him at the death scene at the memorial, said that he loves life. And so I think I'll go to that.
I'm talking about you. I'm going to adopt you.
What? Well, how does one go about getting adoption papers for an old person like me? And
Oh, no.
I'll tell you what.
What?
Forget the adoption papers. You take Phil and me out of this establishment for one day to have some fun.
Are you in pain?
No pain. Just happy. Very happy. I don't hate what happens to old people. I'm glad I got to be old. I love life.
So his daughter said to me that she actually looked at him like that, actually on his deathbed, and he looked like he did in the film. And whenever I see this, I get tears in my eyes, where he says he loved life, and he did. And there you go. So the next thing, it goes to film festivals. Here it's at the California Independent Film Festival. There's Walter Klenard. He's there with me. Martin won an award for Best Actor. It award Best Feature Drama. It was shown in the Haifa Film Festival in Israel. This is kind of cute. This is the Jerusalem Post in English. The doctor's in the director's chair. And now you have to have a distribution. So we found a distributor, Gravitas. They changed the name to Abe and Phil's Last Poker Game, not Last Poker Game. Does anybody know why? Well, the answer is they wanted something that starts with the letter A because it comes up faster on the searches. So it's Abe and Phil's Last Poker Game, which actually is kind of a little nicer. They came up with a new movie poster, which is a nice one. It's Never Too Late for Life is the tagline. I like this poster. And here's the trailer. So let's watch the official trailer for the movie.
Good morning. It is an important day. I want to make your settling in to Cliffside Manor as comfortable as possible. Or think of it more as an unfortunate day than an important one. Hi.
Phil Nicoletti.
Dr. Abe Mandelbaum. What brings you here?
Cataract, diabetes, sleep apnea, stenosis of the back, lower slip discs, cancer.
You're looking to 5 years since I've had an erection.
Can't get it up anymore. That's been my problem for years.
How many women?
A few hundred.
No.
You and Nate.
Who are you?
I'm a volunteer. I like being with old folks.
You're not old.
54.
I'm 83.
I'm Angela.
I'm adopted and I'm searching for my birth father. The reason I got a job here, I got a note that my father is a cliff diver.
Years ago, I had a brief affair with a nurse. It's possible she had a child. You take Phil and me out of this establishment for one day to have some fun. My boy!
This is called five-card draw. Nobody can beat me. Innocent. She's my daughter.
Yes, she really is. When you get old, time slows down the way it did when we were kids.
We're still the same as they are. No matter how young they are. We're better than they are. Because we're friends.
It's a great trailer, and the end that they're friends is one of the big scenes in the movie. So there's the trailer, and then it gets released. It's a limited release. It was in theaters, and we did have a premiere in Hollywood, and let me show you a little bit about that. We're coming to the end here.
I'm glad you all showed up today to see this.
So this is Pete Hammond. He's a very famous Hollywood person, loved the film. Paul Sorvino, Pamela, who plays Cheryl. This is Lando's daughter, and this is his agent. Now, this is 38 minutes. We're not going to do all of this, but I want to go to where Harry Gold talks about Lando, and let's see if I can get there. It's at about 22 minutes.
Lecture room at the Harvard Medical School. Of course. I would expect nothing less. Yeah. Let's get a little personal here about Martin Landau with two people who knew him obviously very well. Harry, how long did you represent Marty?
You know, I had two opportunities with Marty. One was very early in my career. Marty was actually the first name actor I ever got to represent, very early in my career. He saw something in me and actually inspired me to open up my own company. And, you know, after I was an agent for a year and I was put in a set of circumstances, and I said to him, Marty, thinking of opening up my own agency. I've only been an agent a year. I know that, but I'm thinking of doing that. He goes, I think you'll do well. You should do it. Just do it. That was it. Yeah, no, pretty well. And yeah, no, that was one of his favorites. Just do it. And I did. And then, you know, we were together for some years, and then there was a break, and then for the last 15.
Yeah. And what was he like as a client? I mean,
he was, you know, the difficulty and the greatness of representing something like Marty is I took very seriously the notion that I was kind of in charge of his legacy, you know, and he wanted to work, but there weren't a plethora of roles that were written for guys his age that would meet the level of what he deserved, you know? And we had this conversation often because scripts would come in, I would think they're crap, he would kind of like them. I said, Marty, this is not good enough for you. You know, so when something like The Last Poker Game comes in, it's like, oh my God, this is something worthy of Martin Landau. But then, of course, then the business aspect. Okay, it's another indie. It's not a commercial film. Do they really have the money? Who are these people? Because the independent film world has really been rocky in these last 10 years. So I don't ever believe it's going to happen until the money actually hits our escrow account. Well, there were enough people involved in this film that I felt confident that this could happen. And it was then that I said, you should meet the director. He's a first-time director, some kind of Harvard law professor. I don't freaking know. But he wrote a really good script, and this part is so great. So he said, okay, you know, he agreed and read it and just loved it. And Howard and Marty met, and the film happened, and the money hit escrow. Thank God. Wow. So that, you know, that's kind of the story of that. And Marty loved this film. I think it's truly one of his greatest performances ever. I really can say that. And to any of his students this year, there's a level of acting that he reached in this that was just so pure to me, so organic. And it's a lifetime of study that got him there. But this role of Abe he's just beautiful in it. And he and Paul were amazing together.
When you have a partner who is at a very high level.
I'm going to go on to let Susie talk.
You can see your mother in her face.
Yeah, Barbara Bain.
This is emotional for you, I can tell. And you didn't even want to be on the panel today, but we coerced her into doing it. And you have obviously such fond stories here, but from your perspective of knowing your father and everything, what did this mean to him? And
Well, it meant a lot to him. He, I mean, one thing is he's in so many scenes with Paul. They're in the whole movie, right? And I think working on a part where there's an arc like that was extraordinary for him. And he came back saying that he had done some of his best work because he and Paul and Dr. Weiner were so free together, and that they went to heights he didn't even expect when he read the script, and that he was looser than he'd ever been in a work situation. So he was able to explore the character in a way that he didn't usually have the time to do. And I think you set the parameters for freedom somehow on that set, and the mastery that Paul's talking about. He loved it, and he felt that he had reached a certain level that he hadn't gotten to do that often since he was super young, when he was like, had beginner's luck. No, I'm kidding. But he relished that. So, and you know, like Harry said, the script, you know, there wasn't as many scripts that got to like, I hate the word showcase, but showcase him in that way. Yeah. Allow him to be the master that he was.
And I saw him around town all the time, sometimes with you, sometimes not. He was everywhere, you know, and his mid 80s and late 80s, he was.
So I'm going to stop that. You can look at that. We also had a premiere at the Coolidge Corner Theater. There's the Coolidge, everybody knows it. All the people came. There was not one seat left there. Vijay Kucha was there, was very kind, gave me some flowers. We had the female actresses there, Pamela Dubin, Kayla Harry, who plays a call girl that visits Paul Sorbino, and of course, Anne Marie Shea. We had a red carpet and a big thing, and here's the lab, gets to be on the red carpet. And I actually then took the red carpet and put it in my office for a couple of days. It's not there anymore, but we could bring it back out. We then got reviews. Chris, you mentioned this review in the Village Voice and Pace. It really got great reviews. There were some reviews that weren't great, but it was amazing. Then everybody says, well, what are you going to do next, Howard? Well, I do have more projects. And I now found a home for my films. It's called MRC Entertainment Los Angeles. It's a big company. They do television, film, nonfiction, etc. In the first project we're moving on, I've written this book, The Brain Under Siege, which is a book about neurologic disease. And we're going to make a docuseries. Amit Day from MRC Entertainment Nonfiction is going to be the studio, Rafi Marmor from Delirio Films. And we have a director, Janet Tobias. She's just doing something on Fauci. Here I am, you talk about having lunches in Hollywood. This was a dinner. So this is Ahmed and Rafi. I was just out there to work on The Brain Under Siege. And here's Janet Tobias, who I met in Cambridge when she was interviewing Fauci's daughter. I have two regular films. One is a medical thriller. This is going to be done with MRC Film. It's called Love Kills. It's built around a murder that happens in the hospital. Tells the story of identical twin doctors, a young woman with an incurable illness that falls in love with the doctors, and of course, a beautiful nurse. The murder investigation leads to uncovering illegal human experimentation. Has a lot to do with controlling the brain. And the second film is called Subways. It examines the existential life crisis of a New York neurosurgeon. It starts in the middle of brain surgery when he sees subway trains coming out of the patient's brain. It's played out in real life in his subconscious, which is represented by subway stations, Mother Station, all these different stations. And it's in the vein of Fellini and Woody Allen. Here's Robin Marshall from MRC Entertainment at lunch in Hollywood last week ago, talking about the film. And now my last slide. So what are the lessons learned? What did I learn? Well, one thing, movies are an iterative process and very complex. And there's various stages. The film is in the script. The actors can change it. Then you film it, things can happen in the filming. Then the editing can change it, and the music can change it, and the distribution can change it. So it's a big, long process. On the films I'm working now, there's certain issues that I don't even worry about because I know we're going to deal with them, have to deal with them later. As in science and innovation, you need to raise money. And you need to raise money for science, you need to raise money for film. And you can't quit. That's true for science, that's true for film. And at the core of the science we do is a vision, a treatment, an idea. At the core of a film is a vision. And it's not easy to get in a position to test the vision. You have to do so many things independent of the vision. And it's possible that you'll work very, very hard. And after all the effort, the vision may not succeed no matter how many barriers you've overcome. So I've spent years working on phase 3 trials for MS. And then when we finally did it, it didn't work. So that's something I've learned. And then I put down here something that everybody knows. It never hurts to have a little luck. I mean, what would I have done if Martin Landau died in the middle of the filming, or God forbid this happened with the pandemic? So you got to have a little luck. So there we go. I thank you for going on this journey with me. It gave me a chance to put everything together. And if I only went 4 minutes over, but if people want to ask questions, I'm happy to talk or ask questions. If people want to, I think they're recording this. So if you want to look at the recording, you could look at some of those links and watch what you want to watch. So Chris, hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you, Howard, and for the awesome amount of work that went into pulling these together, these observations. And again, your motto there on the last slide, which I think was on the last slide of your scientific presentation, never quit. So thank you for that. Why don't we are past time, but why don't we take a question or two? And it does look by the names that we have a couple family members here, including I think Mira. So we just want to acknowledge them. So anyone, whether you work for Mass General Brigham, Brigham and Women's, or you're just a friend of the Weiners, jump in here if you have a question. Either wave or just use the chat.
I can see Irene Cohn. Hi, Irene. Hi, Lillian, and I see Lillian. Hi, Lillian and Ernie.
I know one person that has been close, and maybe I think he even weighed in on some of the music selections. If Colin Lawler is still on, maybe Colin, do you have a question?
Yeah, thanks, Howard. That was amazing. Really enjoyed it. As you know, Howard, people in our office represent some of your affairs, and I was fascinated to know. I see in the end you have somebody representing you, but I'm just curious, how did you balance trying to get everybody involved? I mean, did you do all of that yourself, or did you kind of say to somebody, you know, look, I need to get to somebody. How can I get started? I'm just curious. Obviously, you'd all your network, but I'm just fascinated in the sense for a director. Okay, like did you have to kind of sign off on how much Martin Landau would cost? I know it's in nuts and bolts, but I'm just curious for a director, how much do you have to get into the weeds on some of the real nuts and bolts of things?
Well, ultimately, as director, you have to approve everything.
Okay.
And we had a dog in the film. I said, I want a dog. They said, you know how hard it is to have a dog, okay? So they said, okay, and they sent me a picture of 20 dogs, and I had to choose the dog, okay?
Wow.
Now, as far as how much Martin Landau gets paid. It was the budget. They said, Howard, do you want to do it? So I had to say yes on that. I chose the producers brought the director of photography and all these other people that I met with and had to approve. Other people I didn't have to approve. I didn't have to approve the makeup people or any of that. But you know, if they were, when you're filming, you can't go over time. If you go over time, it costs more money, and you're allowed to go 4 minutes over time on any day, and you have money in the budget for that. So then they said, Howard, you're 6 minutes over time. Do you want to keep going? You know, and I have to make that decision. I remember there was one scene that we had filmed the whole scene with Sorvino, and we broke down all the lights and everything. And then Sorvino says, Howard, I got to do it again. I said, Paul, what are you talking about? He says, I got to do it again. So I turned to everybody. He says, we're doing it again. They said, Howard, we can't do it again. I says, we're doing it again. We did it again, you know, that type of thing. So the director does have ultimate control.
Thank you. That was fascinating. Thanks, Howard. Thank you.
All right, if there's a final question, jump in. Otherwise,
I have a comment.
Oh, good. Go ahead, Iron.
I've gone through a good part of life with Howard, mostly in science. But as you can see in this film, there's a unique creativity here that's combined with a humanity that flows out of Howard and gets people to do amazing things. But along with that is the ability to organize. I mean, this whole film is just one organizational hurdle after another, and Howard puts it together with his enthusiasm, his creativity, which I mentioned, and his ability to get people aboard and work with him. And Howard, I want to thank you for your influence on Yael and I and on science. And this has been a great adventure to see this analysis, this anatomy of the film.
Thanks, Iron, and maybe we'll come. Give me a call. We may come to Michigan. Lou, are you on the thing? Lou Fader, wave your hand. Yeah, just to see, I see you. Iron, thanks so much.
Okay, take care.
All right.
Well, maybe that's the fitting last word there from Iron. So thank you, everyone, and Howard. It's just so exceptional to share this with you. So thank you.
Chris, I want to thank you. I haven't put this all together. Obviously, it took a lot of time, but it gave me the chance to synthesize and put it all together. So I really enjoyed it. So thank you very much.
All right, everyone, have a great weekend and keep life's lessons there. Bye-bye.